go, and I'll tell you when you get there. And he wound up in Egypt, and with his wisdom, he and Sarah were able to preserve the purity of Sarah, despite Sarah being very beautiful and being very desirable for people, and he didn't have any weapons with him, I guess. Well, anyway, he couldn't go against the whole army of Pharaoh. But anyway, then that worked, and so he was doing very well. He was doing very well. But then, in offering this symbolic offering, perhaps he didn't realize the importance of this. This was God and Satan now, after the fall, are in they're in a war. They're more than a competition. They're in a war. God wants to restore his people back to him as quickly as possible. So he figures, okay, how can this be done in the family of Adam? How can this, if not the family of Adam, then how can this be done in the family of Noah? Okay, I'll depopulate the world down to 8 people, and then Noah can inherit his faith to his second son Ham, and then Ham and Shem can set the foundation of substance, and then we'll have it then. It'll work then. And that doesn't work. And so then in Abraham, he calls Abraham, who is a son of an idol maker or idol seller. Anyway, he's very loved by Satan. And so now calls him out, and for a long time, Abraham is doing very, very well. But then he makes this mistake, so that now this very important offering that would have accomplished restoration in one fell swoop now actually becomes the basis for a much greater condition of indemnity. Now Abraham's seed are going to have to go into a strange land and be there for 400 years. So, and also Abraham now, in order for the providence to continue, has to offer something, not a ram, not a heifer, not a ram or a goat, and not a pigeon. He has to offer his own son, his only son. He has to be willing to offer his only son on a burnt offering. And that's a very serious situation now. So, but now Abraham is the key figure of failure, as we said. But the core rule of God's providence is that on the third try, it's going to succeed, because Satan has not invaded the third stage of the growing period, only the first 2 stages. And so the third stage can get complicated, but it winds up being successful. So then here, the artistic foundation established by Abel and Noah through the successful completion of their offerings, Abel and Noah, was a condition by which God could work to have Abraham offer the sacrifice again. So here, now before he offers Isaac, he has to become qualified to do that. And so a very similar situation transpires, similar to when Abraham and Sarah went to Egypt. But this time he is going in a country called Gerar or Gerar. Don't know exactly how they pronounce this back then. But then again, here, similar to the Pharaoh, and it's a similar thing here. And Abraham journeyed from thence, we're in chapter 20, toward the south country, and dwelled between Kadesh and Shur, and sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." And Abimelech, the king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. So again, just like Pharaoh, okay, the king of Abimelech, the king of Gerar, Abimelech, his name is Abimelech, took Sarah. She's very beautiful. Hey, what can you do? But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "Behold, thou art but a dead man." You're a dead man, right? God says you're a dead man. That's pretty heavy. "Behold, thou art but a dead man, for the woman which thou hast taken, for she is a man's wife." But Abimelech had not come near her. And he said, "Lord, wilt thou slay also a righteous nation?" Okay, so he's now negotiating with God. And you know what? God does negotiate, okay? If we see that, yeah, he negotiates. "Said he not unto me, she is my sister?" It's not my fault. He lied to me. And even she herself said, he is my brother. In the integrity of my heart and innocence of my hands have I done this. Hey, I'm innocent here. I'm innocent here. I'm an innocent victim here. And God said unto him in a dream, yes, I know that thou didst this in the innocence of thy heart, for I also withheld thee from sinning against me, therefore suffered I thee not to touch her. Now, it turns out, actually, that she is his sister, actually half-sister, if you look at the Bible closely. So it's not exactly a lie, but she's also his wife, okay? And this makes sense because Adam and Eve were a brother and sister. And so it does make sense that Sarah would be Abraham's sister. I think she is a half-sister if you look at it carefully. Okay, I can't remember exactly where that is, but I've read that a few times. Okay, anyway. Now therefore, God says to him, restore the man his wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for thee, and thou shalt live. And if thou restore her not, again, two choices, all right? Restore her, or give her back, or don't give her back. Restore her not, know thou that thou shalt surely die, thou and all that are thine. So you'll die, and everybody else in your family that you love and everything else is going to die if you don't give this woman back to her husband. Therefore, Abimelech rose early in the morning. I'll bet he did. Yeah, he probably didn't get much sleep after that. And called all his servants and told all these things in their ears, and the men were sore afraid. And Abimelech called Abraham and said unto him, what hast thou done unto us? And what have I offended thee, that thou hast brought on me and all my kingdom a great sin, that thou hast done deeds unto me that ought not to be done? You know, there are certain things you can do and can't do. This is definitely something that you cannot do. And Abimelech said unto Abraham, what sawest thou that thou hast done these things? And Abraham said, because I thought, surely the fear of God is not in this place, and they will slay me for my wife's sake. And yet, indeed, she is my sister. There we go, see, she is my sister. She is the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. So there he confesses that, yeah, she's a sister by a different mother. Okay. I think, all right, so, and it came to pass when God caused me to wander from my father's house, that I said unto her, this is thy kindness, which thou shalt show unto me, at every place whither we shall come, say of me, he is my brother. So anyway, Abimelech sends him away, and by the way, gives him a whole bunch of sheep and oxen and men servants and women servants, and gave them to Abraham and restored him to Sarah's wife. And Abimelech said, behold, my land is before thee, dwell where it pleaseth thee. So, you know, okay, so they part friends, okay? They have a good relationship, okay? All right, so anyway, so the similar situation happened. And this is, again, important in terms of restoring what happened in the Garden of Eden. So Abraham and Sarah, they go to Abimelech. Abimelech takes Sarah with him, but he does not have sex with her. Instead, sends her back to Abraham. So this restores the situation where Eve goes to the archangel and does have sex with the archangel, and then essentially leaves Adam in favor of the archangel. So here in Noah's family situation, the wife, children, animals, his wife go from Satan's world, the earth, into the ark, and Abraham, his wife, and Lot and his wealth takes Gerar and goes to Canaan. So he, as a result of these two experiences, one with Pharaoh and one with Abimelech, Abraham collects a lot of wealth because these two rulers give him a lot of wealth. If you'll just go away, leave us alone. God says, I'm a dead man if I touch your wife. So please get out of here. I'll give you all these sheep and oxen and maidservants and women servants that you want. Just please go. So he collects all this and he goes to Canaan. So then, now, having done that, he's now, having demonstrated his faith and Sarah's faith once again, he is now qualified to make a second offering, but this time that offering is going to be his only son. So yes.
Sorry. So Sarah, she restored the evil position through the Pharaoh, and then Abraham he failed. He made a mistake at the offering. That's why they need to go through again.
Yes.
Through again.
Yes. Because that foundation was destroyed, so he had to go through it again. Yes. This time, though, not with Pharaoh, because Pharaoh is already on to them, all right? He knows what they're doing. Okay? He knows. Oh, here they come again. No. Close the border. Don't let them in. So he goes to another country. Yes. And they don't go there purposely, I think, but God sends him to another country. Yeah.
And now, in the Bible, is that Joseph?
Joseph,
wife?
okay. He also goes to Egypt, yes.
And also has a same situation like Abraham with a wife. Right?
Of the wife of the Pharaoh, yes.
That also is that same. We can understand same.
I think we may get to that. But yes, Joseph also preserves his purity. And he winds up in jail for it because his wife because he refuses to have sex with her, the Pharaoh's wife, she then accuses him of rape anyway, and he winds up in jail. I think that's how it works with Joseph, isn't that right? Yeah.
I think it's Potiphar's wife, a high official.
High official's wife, okay. Thank you. Okay. So there is a 3-day course, all right, when Abraham is going to the place. And, Mount Moriah, if you go to Egypt, not to Egypt, to Israel, Mount Moriah is actually the Temple Mount. And it's not a high mountain. And so when you go there, you wonder, why did it take Abraham 3 days to climb this mountain? It's not a huge deal. Of course, they've maybe taken it down some because now there's a big Islamic temple on top of it, and also the palace of Solomon was there. But the temple of Solomon was there. But it was a 3-day course where Abraham, I think, was in fact struggling a lot. Yes, Jenny.
Sorry, I know it was not the Joseph, the Isaac. Isaac also had that kind of course.
Isaac?
Yeah, with the Rivka, right? Yeah. So, Bible 26, the Abimelech, is that right English?
Yes. 26?
Yeah, 26, chapter 26.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one. Isaac?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Isaac, the Rivka also beautiful.
Right. Okay.
So
I see.
So
okay.
Can you
right,
understand
yes,
like Abraham's situation?
I guess so. Yes. Maybe we'll get to that. Oh yeah. Okay. Isaac and Abimelech in 26. I see. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. And Isaac dwelt in Gerar. Okay. Yes. Wow. So Abimelech fell for this twice. Okay. All right. All right. Let's deal with what we have right now. Okay. 3-day course period of separation from Satan when making a new start. And the intention to kill was to separate Satan from Isaac. So not killing Isaac because Isaac had been separated from Satan. There was not a need for him to be killed. And Abraham's absolute faith and heart of loyalty, and Isaac's absolute faith and heart of obedience also here, coming here. Now I know, so God's heart of reproach for Abraham's failure in the symbolic offering. So now I know, in the symbolic offering, he had shown that he did not fear God. But now he sort of dealt with that in a way that was not very sincere. Not sort of, he was, well, we say lacking in chongsong, lacking in sincerity and dedication. But then God's joy at Abraham's success in the offering of Isaac. So God was pleased that Abraham now was in line with him finally. The effect of successfully offering Isaac, Abraham dies symbolically, and Isaac becomes the resurrected Abraham. So in that instant, then Isaac became Abraham and Isaac become one person in terms of God's will. So then Isaac then is now qualified to be able to take over from Abraham, and Isaac can now make the symbolic offering as the central figure for the foundation of faith. So Abraham's symbolic offering failed, but because Isaac showed that he was completely one with his father, not like Ham, but Isaac showed that he was completely one with his father, so now Isaac is now essentially one in terms of God's providence and in terms of the spiritual mission. He's one with his father. So now he can stand as the central figure in the second offering, which is the ram. Now they find the ram in the thistle, and so they're able to offer the ram there. And the Bible says that Abraham offered it, but Abraham and Isaac are one. And so it's actually Isaac that is standing in the central figure position to offer this ram now instead of himself. So the foundation of faith, centering on Isaac, is successful. Yay, yes, okay. So now the foundation of substance has to be set by the sons of Isaac, who are Jacob and Esau. Yeah. Yes, Carrie.
I just want to make a comment that I think a lot of times there's criticism from certain people that women are not more talked about in the Bible or honored, but I think it's really important to, when you look, the importance of the mother role that is not explicitly stated, but I just think it's worth mentioning that how Noah's wife is not mentioned by name, and then we see that Ham was ashamed of his father. But we see how Isaac was willing to be sacrificed, and I can't help think that Sarah had a positive role to play in that. So. Yeah,
I think that is very obvious. Yeah, the king says that the mother is in the role of the evangelist, right? And one of the roles of the evangelist is to testify to the father. I would say yes. Okay, and then now we made it, finally got the foundation of faith taken care of in Abraham's family. But now Abraham is, in terms of God's mission, is now dead. He's now in the sense that he's now outside the providence. I think he's still alive, but he's basically no longer related to the providence. His mission has been passed to Isaac. And so the foundation of substance now is going to be accomplished, or we hope, accomplished through the sons of Isaac. And he has two sons, and they are twins, okay? So the foundation of substance, the central figure is Jacob. And so then, well, let's see here. Jacob and Esau. When Isaac was 40 years old, when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian, and Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, "Two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger." If you look at the preamble of the Chunuk Constitution, it says that in God's kingdom, the more powerful, the stronger, will serve the less powerful and the weaker. And in the Garden of Eden, this was what was supposed to happen. The archangel was very powerful, very strong, and very wise. Right? Adam was not strong. He was a young boy, not wise. In terms of the competition of power, the archangel could easily overcome Adam. And in fact, that's what finally happened. But that's not God's ideal. So the lineage of God does not have to be strong or powerful or wise or anything like that. The main thing is to have that lineage and to keep that lineage. That is the most important thing. So also here God says that the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. After that came his brother out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. 80 years would be 60 years old. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. He stayed home. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of the venison, of his venison. But Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Jacob sawed pottage, so he made some soup. Okay? And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. I'm going to die here if I don't have some soup right away. What profit shall this birthright do to me? If I'm going to be dead anyway, well, if I don't eat right now. And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. So, actually it was lentil soup, right, that he had there in place of his birthright. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils. There we go. And he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. So that's the beginning of the situation. Okay. So then let's look at this. So individual to restoration of the birthright. So Satan took the birthright from God's people. And so, remember, Abel represents the second sin, the second fall, which was relatively not quite as bad as the first one. The first one was completely unprincipled. I said it was like bestiality, and now I come to think of it, it really was. This is really, that kind of unprincipled thing was actually what happened, where Eve had a relationship with a being that she had no business having sex with. It's kind of yucky to think of it, but yeah, that's what happened. So that was the first sexual intercourse. The second one, that was motivated by desire or lust. The second one was motivated by Shimjong, the OSDP says. In other words, she was thinking wrongly and naively, but she was thinking that by having sex with Adam, that she could somehow get back to God. Obviously, that wasn't the case, and she had no business doing that. But at least this Adam was her intended mate, and so it was less bad than her first relationship.
Tim?
Yes.
Do you think it would be accurate to say that in the first...
Maybe I should have asked you to wait. I think I will ask you to wait. Just hold on a second. So then that is why then the first son, Cain, came to was symbolizing that first relationship, and the second son, Abel, symbolizing the second relationship. So here also we see in Jacob and Esau, Esau is symbolizing that, is in the position of Cain, symbolizing that first relationship that Eve had. But he has the birthright because now Satan has taken this. And so Satan has the birthright. So God has to restore that birthright to his people, to the second son. And that is why then Jacob then is restoring the birthright through this interaction with Esau, where he buys the birthright essentially from his older brother for some bread and lentil soup. Okay, now, Carrie, go ahead.
Thank you. Do you think it'd be accurate to say that the first fall, in addition being motivated by lust, also, and maybe you were just speaking about Eve, but just in terms of the first fall, that the whole point was to take dominion over Adam, that the motivation of Lucifer seducing Eve was the ultimate goal was actually to take Adam, to push Adam off the throne and take his place, so that would also be a main motivation
that's the
of
effect.
fall.
That's the effect. I'm always careful about referring to Satan in anthropomorphic terms. I think there is a tendency for us to do that because Lucifer was not a human being. And so we need to be careful about the language that we use in relationship to Lucifer. Language like motivation, for example. And I think maybe Father speaks that way sometimes too, but I do want to be careful because the responsibility for the fall lay with Adam and Eve. And Father eventually, of course, we'll see, forced Satan or got Satan to submit to him. But Father, though, says, do you think this happened? How do you think this happened or something like that? He says that Father gave him no choice. So it wasn't as if Satan there was somehow motivated to submit to Father, I think. We'll have to look at that more closely. But I do want to be careful. I think we tend to look at, there is a tendency to look at Lucifer in human terms, and I want to avoid that very much. Okay. So here, all right, Jacob, individual, in terms of an individual restoring the birthright. Okay? And then so he so his brother comes in and says, I'm so hungry, I'm going to die. So give me some of that soup right away. And Jacob says, okay, well, I'll give it to you, but you have to give me your birthright. You have to swear to me that I will have the birthright. I will inherit. I will be the one who will inherit everything from our father Isaac. And Esau says, okay, whatever. If I'm going to die, if I don't eat that soup, I'm going to die. And what good will the birthright be if I die? So go ahead, yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, this is a promise, all right? So whether Esau keeps it or not is the second thing. So then he goes, then he comes then when Isaac is old, we're in chapter 27 now, and his eyes were dim, okay, so that he could not see. He called Esau, his eldest son, and said unto him, my son. And he said unto him, behold, here I am. That's how they talked, I guess, back then, okay? And he said, behold now, I am old. I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver, and thy bow, and go out to the field and take me some venison, so some deer meat, and make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. And Rebekah, heard this. She heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, all right, saying, behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, bring me venison and make me savory meat, and I may eat and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice, according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from thence 2 good kids, in other words, baby goats, all right, kids of the goats. That's what they call baby goats. And I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, and that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. So Rebekah is helping Jacob to steal the blessing from his older brother Esau. And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, behold, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. All right, so he doesn't have much hair on his body. Esau's got hair all over the place. My father, pre-adventure, will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, upon me be thy curse, my son, only obey my voice. Don't worry about it. Hey, listen, I'll work it out. So just go get the baby goat and do as I say. And he went and fetched and so anyway. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her. So she took some clothing of the older brother, okay, which probably, smelled. This is a hunter, right? And I don't know how often they washed their clothes back then, but which were with her in the house and put them upon Jacob, her younger brother. So she had Jacob wear the clothing of Esau and put the skins of the young goats, all right, upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. So took the goat skins and the goat skins, and she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came unto his father and said, my father. And he said, here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thou soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, how is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, because the Lord thy God brought it to me. Praise God. And Isaac said unto Jacob, come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau, because he's feeling the goat skin. Yeah? And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy, and his brother Esau's hands as his brother's Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, bring it near me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field, which the Lord hath blessed. Right, yes. My wife called it the farmer's perfume. Yes, manure. Therefore, God give thee of the dew of the heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be every one that curseth thee, and blessed be every one that blesseth thee. Boom, all right? So now the blessing, the father's blessing has now officially been given to the younger son, Jacob. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of the blessing of Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from the hunting. So anyway, so we'll find out what happens there. So here he went to his father Isaac to receive the blessing. Okay. Then Esau comes back, of course, and finds out what's been going on, and Esau is very angry. Well, justifiably so. He was supposed to get the blessing, and his blessing was stolen from him. But this was, in God's providence, this was not a bad thing. This was a good thing. Because now the birthright of the family has been restored to the person who is on God's side. But Esau now is very angry, and he's going to kill Jacob. And so Sarah then tells Jacob to go to the family of Lot, okay? This is Abraham's nephew. So how does it work? Anyway, relative. And who? What? Laban, yeah. Goes to Laban, yes. In Haran, yes, I'm sorry, not Lot. Laban in Haran. So go to Haran, be with your Uncle Laban, and then we'll wait until things become calm. So Jacob escapes. He escapes to Haran with Rebekah's help. So Haran now is the symbol of the satanic world, and Laban then is basically Satan in substance. And so he goes to Haran, to Laban's house, and he works there for 7 years. And so Laban says, okay, so then, let's see here. And Jacob served 7 years. No, it was before that. Okay, and so then Jacob goes and Laban meets him, and Laban said unto Jacob, because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? Tell me, what shall thy wages be? So you're going to have to work for me, but what do you want in return? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, and Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. So anyway, that means that Rachel was a lot better looking than Leah. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. And Laban said, it is better that I give her to thee than that I should give her to another man. Abide with me. So yeah, I'd much rather have you take her as your wife rather than give it to another man. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her. So it seemed like a short time because he loved Rachel very much, so forth, okay? And so then after 7 years, he said to Laban, okay, give me my wife, for the days are fulfilled that I may go in unto her. So now I've worked for 7 years like I promised, and you promised that you would give me Rachel. But got to be careful, got to be careful that people don't switch things on you at the last minute. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him, and he went into her. And Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zilpah, his maid, for a handmaid. So anyway, Jacob finds out the next morning, okay, that he was actually not having sex with Rachel, but with Leah. And he says to Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? Did I not serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then hast thou beguiled me? Why'd you fool me? Why'd you defraud me? And Laban said, it must not be so done in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Well, why didn't you say so in the first place then? Now you tell me. Yeah. He makes Jacob work for him 7 years, and then he gives him the girl that he doesn't want. Fulfill her week, and we will give thee this also for the service which thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. So then Laban says, okay, well, work for another 7 years. All right? And I promise, I really promise, okay, this time you really get Rachel. Okay, so then Rachel so he works another 7 years. And this time he does get a Rachel, okay? And also each of them has a handmaid. And Jacob actually has children by both Leah and Rachel, and also the 2 servants, the handmaids. So basically he's getting 4 women there. Not that, so the Old Testament is not a model for us to follow. This doesn't mean that it's okay for people to have 4 wives, or 2 wives and 2 concubines, basically. But remember, human beings fell into ignorance as a result of the fall. And this is before Moses, okay? So they don't have the 10 Commandments, for one thing. And so this kind of thing is common back then because they are still in a state of ignorance. But God is working through this. He's working through what he has, whatever he has. So here, Laban's 2 daughters and their 2 handmaids. So Jacob has 4 wives. And Leah and Rachel give him 6 and 2 children, and Zilpah and Bilhah each give him 2 children. So Jacob altogether, out of these 4 women, has 12 sons. And here the finding these servants then is the restoration of the archangel. So here God is able to use that as a condition to say, okay, now the position of the servant has been restored because now Jacob, who is on God's side, now has these servants. So then, and then the governance over creation, restoration of the wealth and assets. So Jacob then, after 14 years, then goes to Laban and said, you know what, I need to leave now, but I've been working for you for free, except that you give me your 2 daughters, so I don't have any assets. So give me 7 more years so that I can build up some assets. And so Jacob does that. And then he leaves Haran after the restoration of wealth and assets, and he escapes. But actually, what happens though there is that I think it was Rachel takes the idol that is in Laban's home and takes it away. They took the idols that Laban loved when they left, and the destruction of the idols. They were so the servants of Laban come running after them because they left in the middle of the night without telling anybody, and Laban goes running after them and say, hey, come on, we were going to give you a goodbye party. So what's it? But Jacob, he's been deceived actually 10 times over 21 years. And so he's not going to be deceived again. He's become wise now. And so he leaves in the middle of the night because he knows that Laban may actually be planning to kill him. So he leaves there with his 2 wives, his 2 concubines, and with all the assets that he's accumulated, and also with the idols that Laban loved. Laban chases after him, and they catch him, and they look throughout the camp for the idols. And actually, Rachel is sitting on them, on her camel, okay? She's sitting on them. And they tell her, get down from the camel so we can search your saddle. And she says, no, I know. What do you mean? I'm not going to get down. So anyway, she talks her way out of it. And after they leave, then they bury those idols by an oak tree after the 3-day course had passed. So, and then Jacob, of course, has the famous, should be famous anyway, wrestling match with the angel at the ford of Jabbok. He continues on his way toward Canaan now. He's returning to Canaan with all of these children, wives, children, assets, everything like that, and returning to Canaan where Esau is still waiting for him, and Esau is still angry. So there's going to be a showdown there as he returns to Canaan. But at the ford of Jabbok, at this ford, he has this all-night wrestling with the angel. And here, and Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. So the Bible said it was a man, but suddenly the man just appears out of nowhere. This is clearly an angel. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. So the angel actually hit Jacob in the thigh and injured Jacob there. And the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, and he wrestled with him. But actually, I think the king gave a sermon on this once that the hollow of the thigh or the loins, this represents the sexual organs. So this was striking the sexual organs like this. Yeah. And then the man, or actually the angel who is wrestling with him, Jacob is holding him, and the angel says, let me go. The sun is rising, and I have to get out of here before the sun rises. I'm not supposed to be here when the sun rises. And Jacob says, no, I'm not going to let go. You have to bless me before you go, and I'm not going to let go until you bless me. And so then the angel then, which is actually Satan, gives him the name Israel. And that's the first time in the Bible where we see this word Israel, that Jacob wins that word, or is given that word as a name at the ford of Jabbok by that, as a result of that. So here, and Father emphasized the importance of this battle at the ford of Jabbok. I think I've told you this before, but one time a group of American members it used to be that father would come and, oh yeah, we're MFT number 25 and we want to do a skit for father, something like that. And anybody could give a skit in the entertainment. And so this group of members got up and did a skit about Jacob and Esau. And at the end of the skit, father was not pleased. He was not pleased at all. And he got up and said, you Americans, you don't understand the importance of spiritual victory. You left out completely the wrestling match at the Fort of Jabbok. He was unpleased. He was not pleased at all. So this spiritual victory or the spiritual conditional victory at the Fort of Jabbok was very important in Father's teaching. So here Jacob defeats the angel, or at least is blessed by the angel there. So the idols, the destruction of idols, there was also a symbolically destroying Satan, and also fighting the angel at the Fort of Jabbok, and was victorious and was blessed by the angel, or by Satan, with the name of Israel, which means victory, or what was it? What does it mean now? Israel means victory. For as and Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I've seen. Okay, all right. So anyway, he's given the name Israel, which means victory. All right. So then, see, this the condition for the substantial offering. So indemnity condition to remove the fallen nature. Jacob is now in that able position. He's been in Haran for 21 years, and when he went to Haran, he was pretty much of a beta male, wasn't he? He was mostly helping his mother and staying in the tents, and when she told him to steal the blessing from his brother, he was actually afraid to do it, but she sort of pushed him and told him, yeah, do what I say, and he finally did it. And then when things got dicey, he ran away or escaped to Haran, because he knew that, and also Rebekah knew that he was no match for his brother. He was a very alpha male. He was out hunting all day, and he smelled like an alpha male, and he really brought back venison and things like this. But after 21 years in Haran, he was trained by Laban, you can say, to be a much stronger man. So now, and also a wiser man. So now he's ready to face his older brother, and to, with his wisdom and other things, he's now ready to see if he can get his brother to submit to him without physical confrontation. So the person in Cain's position has to love. The person in Abel's position has to establish that person as his mediator, has to obey that person, and has to multiply goodness through him. So then we have the reunion of Jacob and Esau in chapter 33 of Genesis. So this is a very climactic situation. And Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men. So Esau is bringing 400 men. And he divided the children unto Leah and unto Rachel and unto the two housemaids. So he divided his children into groups, okay, according to their mothers. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost. He put the handmaids in there. So you guys go on ahead, all right? We got your 6. Go on ahead. Okay. And he put the handmaids and their children foremost, and Leah, her children after, and Rachel and Joseph hindermost. So yeah, he loved Rachel. Yeah, so he kept her back. Yeah. So he put the others first. And he passed over before them and bowed himself to the ground 7 times until he came near to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the women and the children and said, who are these with thee? And he said, the children of God God has graciously given thy servant, in other words, to himself. Then the handmaidens came near They and their children, they bowed themselves. And Leah also with her children came near and bowed themselves. And after came Joseph near Rachel, and they bowed themselves. And he said, What meanest thou by all this drove which I met? And he said, These are to find grace in the sight of my Lord. So this is how Jacob is referring to Esau, very, very humble. And Esau said, I have enough, my brother. Keep that thou hast unto thyself. So Jacob says, go ahead and take everything that I have. But Esau knows, I already have enough. I don't need yours. So, as an older brother, he's kind of proud. I don't need my younger brother's things. I have enough of myself. And Jacob said, Nay, I pray thee, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then receive my present at my hand, for therefore I have seen thy face, as though I had seen the face of God, and thou wast pleased with me. Take, I pray thee, my blessing that is brought to thee, because God hath dwelt graciously with me, and because I have enough. And he urged him, and he took it. So now, what did Jacob not give to Esau? Right, he didn't give the birthright. He's still keeping the birthright, and he's still keeping the blessing. You can take everything else. Okay, you can take you can take Leah. You can take all the handmaids. You can take all the children, take all the sheep and the ox and everything else. But and he's not even talking about the birthright. Okay, and but he's keeping what he wants. And so then. But actually, it says here, though, that they actually went their separate ways from here. And that actually causes a problem later on, because the descendants of Esau now are Edom, and the descendants of Jacob are the Israelites, because now his name is Israel. And when the Israelites are coming out of Egypt, and also later on, the Edomites cause them a lot of trouble. There's a lot of fighting between the Edomites and the Israelites. Eventually, the Edomites are destroyed by God. Eventually, but it takes some time. Carrie, you want to say something?
So the Bible doesn't really explicitly talk about that, but it celebrates the victory of Jacob and Esau uniting. But I think Father talked about that, as you just mentioned, that afterwards there's not a history following where they're working together, right?
Yeah, so Father said that when Joseph went to Egypt, Esau's family, or basically later on, Isaac and all those going to Egypt, they should have gone together. They should have gone together, but they didn't. And only...
Who should have gone together?
Joseph's, or the sons of Isaac, and also the descendants or the sons of Esau as well. Yeah, but only Jacob and his people went to Egypt.
Also, this is maybe not the right time to talk about this, but just in terms of Jacob's family, Father also talked about there was a certain failure, I believe, between Leah and Rachel, that because you see that in their sons, actually the sons of Leah and Rachel became the two tribes, Israel and Judah. So there was a separation there as well.
Well, you see that, even though he loved Rachel, he had 6 sons with Leah and only 2 with Rachel. Just saying, yeah.
Well, yeah, but isn't it the restoration of the concubine and the legal wife that Leah should have, as a legal wife, should have humbled herself to the concubine who was Rachel? That there's that.
Now you're going into an area that I don't know about.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and so then the reunion of Jacob and Esau, and Jacob is not killed. Esau's anger is resolved, and Esau basically forgives Jacob, even though they don't live together. They go their separate ways. In fact, if you see here in 16, so Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house there. So they go to different places. after this meeting. But the important thing is that Esau then did not kill Jacob, but at that moment anyway, united with Jacob, and that established the foundation of substance. So now, for the first time in God's providence, and first time in human history, both the foundation of substance, both the foundation of faith first, and then the foundation of substance were successfully established. So now there is a foundation to meet the Messiah. So how come the Messiah didn't come? Well, we'll see. Okay? So here then, so there's three, now Adam, so Cain and Abel, this didn't work out. This opportunity was squandered. So then 10 generations, 1,600 years later, Noah, Shem, and Ham. Noah set the foundation of faith, but Ham did not unite with his father, and so could not stand as the central figure in the foundation of substance. And so then Shem never had an opportunity to unite with his younger brother Ham. Then 400 years, another 10 generations, Abraham was called out of Ur of Chaldea and had one son, Ishmael, by a maidservant or a concubine, and then Isaac by Sarah. And then, so then Abraham was faithful in following God's instruction to leave his father's house, the idol maker, and to also was successful in overcoming the temptations, or Sarah was successful in overcoming the temptations from the Pharaoh. And but then Abraham failed in the conditional offering, the three-stage offering. So then he had to offer Isaac, but then in order to make another offering to God, first he had to go to Gerar and face a similar situation with Abimelech. And then also Sarah was again successful there. And so then they came back, and then he took Isaac to Mount Moriah and was ready to offer him, was ready to cut him with a knife, but the angel of the Lord stopped him, and so they offered a ram instead. So that foundation of faith then was established by Isaac in terms of his uniting with his father Abraham, completely uniting and inheriting the father's mission in that way. And they offered the ram there. Isaac was the central figure in offering the ram, and that established the foundation of faith. Now the foundation of substance needed to be established, and Jacob restored the birthright for God's side by buying the birthright with the lentil soup, and also deceiving his father at the point of his death. And so then he went to Haran 21 years, and then came back with 2 wives, 2 concubines, and with a lot of assets, and then then went through the ford of Jabbok, and met Esau, and then Esau submitted himself to Jacob, and so then he becomes the central figure. So because Isaac was an offering, he could not become the central figure then for this. And so then now we have the foundation of faith and the foundation of substance being established there. So the impact of Jacob's victory is that the Isaac's family horizontally restored the entire vertical course of history that started with Adam's family, and which had the purpose of restoring, through indemnity, the foundation of substance. So this, again, was an example of the horizontal restoration of vertical history. And as a result of Jacob's victory, the origin of the chosen people, Abraham's descendants, or more specifically, Jacob's descendants, became the chosen people. Because Abraham's descendants also would include Ishmael and Esau, but it is the descendants really of Jacob that became the chosen people. Through Jacob, God's side, Abel comes to subjugate Satan's side, or Cain's side. And Jacob's course becomes the model course for subjugating Satan's side. So Father encouraged us to study Jacob's course, because this shows us how to subjugate Satan's side. The history of the chosen people of Israel becomes the central history of the providential restoration. So the Old Testament is about the history of the people of Israel, because that is the central history of the providential restoration. The God of 3 generations, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. from the perspective of the providence, these 3 generations are the same as 1 generation. From the perspective of the providence, these 3 are united. The person who must walk the central path in all courses for indemnification is the Abel-type figure who stands as the center of the offering of substance. This is Abel, this is Ham, Isaac, and Jacob, and later on Joseph. Yeah. Yes, Carrie.
Tim, could you comment on Father going to North Korea and meeting with Kim Il-sung, because he was the victorious Christ. He wasn't restoring the Abel position. He was victorious, but it's such a classic, like Cain Abel restoration, that he goes there as the alpha male and brings offerings. He also offered many things. He came in a victorious position, but he did not give Kim Il-sung the birthright. He came as the true father.
Yes.
So can you just comment on the spiritual significance of that?
Well, you're asking me to tread in very dangerous waters. No, I really don't want to comment on things that we don't know from Father, or something like spiritual significance. I think that's something that each of us needs to pray about. But we can.
It's just such a classic,
I know.
Abel
Yes,
victory.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
That's right. But I've talked before, I think, about how at one point Father was ready to sacrifice his entire foundation in South Korea, if necessary, for the sake of sending someone to attend Kim Il-sung's funeral later on when he died. But anyway, yes. All right, so the God of 3 generations comes from this situation where Abraham and Isaac, and then Isaac and Jacob are united as 1 generation. And so God calls himself the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob from that time, when he's referring to himself to the people of Israel. Okay. All right, let's go a little further before we break for lunch. The reasons why Abraham's family became the chosen people and the Messiah came from them. Adam's family, was Adam and Eve committed the sin of immoral sex, and Cain and Abel committed the sin of murder. The archangel committed the sin of lying, the sins of rebellion and theft. And then these are being restored through Abraham's family. Abraham, Isaac, the restoration of Eve. So both Abraham and, as you mentioned, Isaac as well, goes to Abimelech, and Rebekah also does not allow Abimelech to have sex with her. So then here, and so this sin of immorality then is restored through Abraham's family in this way. And Abraham and Sarah maintained absolute sex; they did not commit the sin of immoral sex. And also Isaac and Rebekah deceived the father and elder son, so Jacob could receive the blessing. And Jacob and Joseph, the restoration of Adam, did not commit the sin of immoral sex. And Joseph indemnified the sin of murder because he loved his enemy and restored the wealth. And Jacob's victory is the origin and genesis of the chosen people. As a result of his victory, Christ came to the chosen people of Israel. So the reason why Christ could not come at that time, even though the foundation for the Messiah was successful. So this foundation for the Messiah was established through Jacob's victory. But Satan's side already had an ethnic group foundation. So there are all sorts of now ethnic groups around in that area. And if the Messiah had come at that time to Jacob's family, then Jacob's family was very weak. It was just one family. And God needed time to pass for Jacob's family to expand and the people of Israel to begin to expand so that they could stand there and be able to compete to some extent with the people in that area. God's side in the process of establishing a family-level foundation, the Messiah can only be sent when an ethnic group-level foundation has been established. So Abraham's failure in making the symbolic offering, Abraham's descendants were still required to complete 400 years of slavery in Egypt, or at least going to a strange land. And much of that was they were in slavery, although not the entire time. And when Joseph was there, he was very successful. And then the Pharaoh then allowed the Israelites to settle in Egypt, and they were successful for a while. And so the 400 years was not all slavery, but they did go through this slavery experience eventually. The foundation for the Messiah had been successfully established in Abraham's family, but Christ still could not come, so God's providence was extended and lengthened. And that's why we have now 2,000 years, remember on that chart, from Abraham to Jesus. Because it takes 2,000 years then from that point for the Israelites to be ready to receive the Messiah, even though the foundation was established at the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And now, but then Jesus came 2,000 years later. And this would be now the period of the Old Testament, or the formation period in God's providence. Yes, Carrie?
Just a clarification of the ethnic group foundation. Is it individual, family, tribe, ethnic group, nation, world, cosmos? Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So between tribe and nation is the ethnic group.
Correct.
So does that mean can you explain ethnic group?
An ethnic group does not have territorial sovereignty, unless it's inside of a nation. Yeah.
And the difference between ethnic group and tribe is simply that it's a gathering of, is it one tribe? Is it one kind of tribe, or is it many tribes? I'm trying to understand the difference between tribe and
ethnic group?
Yeah.
Well, we can think about that. Probably, yes, there'll be many tribes. Yeah. Well, in case of the Israelites, there were 12 tribes.
So that would be a description of an ethnic group, the 12 tribes.
I guess so, yes.
And then, but that's interesting. It doesn't have territorial sovereignty
Right.
until. Oh, that's a good clarification. Thank you.
Okay. So when they're returning to Canaan now, restoring Canaan, after being away for 400 years or 430 plus years, they are restoring they're going there to restore God's sovereignty.
When Father kept talking about God needs a nation, he's talking about the sovereignty.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. The Father was very, very interested in having a nation. Yes. I saw that. All right. Anything else? Then if not, let's break for lunch. And we'll come back at 1 o'clock. All right? Thank you.